one can interrupt my groove today. Been watching gray skies move away. I just don't think that I can lose, and I might just take a cruise and let the sunshine play. Something more, something new, something new.
What's good, boys and girls? We're back after a week hiatus. Feels a lot longer than that. And as always, joined by my good buddy Drew. Drew, how are you living this evening?
I'm doing really well. Feels good to be back. I think that was 2 weeks off for me. I feel like I haven't
Well,
done the show in a long time.
that's right. Yeah,
So
you're under the weather. It's been a minute.
yeah, so it feels good to be back. Listen, we got some good golf coming up. Hope all is well with you and your life. I know you got exciting things coming up. So hope all is well. But yeah, I'm happy to be back and looking to talk some golf, man.
Yeah, and I know we'll get into the field this week, and the odds aren't great or kind of shitty, but
Terrible. Yeah.
I love these weeks DFS wise, and top heaviness of the board, or what DraftKings prices is, whatever you want to call it, presents a lot of opportunity to kind of get unique. So I'm actually really looking forward to this tournament. And also, just kind of throw a shout out. I'm almost sent you another swing video. We have our member guest at our club this weekend, and really looking forward to that. Shout out to my boy Nate, we're the original Diner Boys. We'll be rolling in there, which Thursday to Saturday. So it's probably the biggest event at the club.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to that.
If you don't know, and I ran these events for many years, member guest is like the creme de la creme of events at the club. So, and you know what I love about it? It gets the juices flowing in competitive golf in a team aspect where you just don't get that on a week-to-week basis when you're just a member somewhere, right? So, like, that'll be fun. Cocktails are flowing. There's some gambling going on. Like, it's peak golf is the member guest. So, I hope you guys have an incredible time and of course, play well. How is the game at this point? How are we feeling? Let me give you a 1 to 10 confidence scale heading into the member guest.
I'm going to say 1 and 10. Like, I'm confident, but the game, me and my partner, we actually played, what was it? Yeah, twice this past weekend. And after a couple beers, we found some form. We kind of got it dialed, but I'm not pleased with where the game is headed.
Okay.
Especially with my partner. But you never know. Like, hey, it could turn around, and that's why I need to send you some swing tips. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. And it's match play style. That's how we do it. So it's low, no net total, low ball. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And I think him and I are both kind of competitive guys. When we get in that arena, I think we'll make it happen.
And that's the beauty of golf too, right? Like, you get to these member guests, you can be a 32 handicapper, you could be a scratch player, everything's flighted, everything is set up to have some competition. To your point, match play, you're kind of never out of things. Like, shit can hit the fan on a hole, your buddy can pick you up, or hey, listen, we're just lost one hole. And I'm guessing are they doing 9-hole matches? Is that how you guys have it set up out there?
Yeah, so we got 6 total in a flight, 9-hole matches. You play 5 matches over 2 days. We have a practice round at Thursday, which is its own game too. It's probably going to be like a Chapman alternate shot or something like that on Thursday. Just call it a practice round. So yeah, then what you probably know. Then we have a shootout that night on a couple holes. Yeah, it's fun, man. It's fun. And yeah, and then we also do kind of a horse race where Calcutta bet on yourselves, or you can bet on other teams, and it's pari-mutuel style. So it's fun, but the days are long. You probably know they're long for you. We get there, the workers get there, like, you start breakfast at 7. Yeah, breakfast for us 7:30, and then on Friday it's 7:30, and our last match is at 3:00, and then they serve you dinner. And so we're going to be, you're all day drinking, quite literally. But it's a fun time. And
how's last question? How's the course? How are we looking course wise? How's the superintendent doing out there? We got things kind of tuned up, ready to go.
Oh yeah, they're dialed. So my course is it's called Persimmon Ridge. It's an Arthur Hills design, and it's actually hosting our state open. Hosted last year, and it's going to host it the next couple of years. It's a great course. It's it's long, but what really trips you up is a lot of the greens are elevated, and not only are they elevated, there's so much undulation, and obviously here in Kentucky, the bluegrass rough is just thick as hell, and so if you don't keep it in the fairway, you're just chopping it and hope it gets somewhere near the green, and then around the green so tough because again a lot of them are elevated and they have a lot of tons of slope and undulation. So, but I prefer that. I like to consider myself a scrambler. The original kind of the original Diner Boys, breakfast open all day. We're scrambling the eggs. We're scrambling. I want that. I want it to be tough and challenging. But
The Diner Boys, look
the
out
Diner
for
Boys, the
'em. I
Diner
love
Boys,
it.
the original Diner Boys. Well, Drew, yeah, let's. Any thoughts? I mean, there's a lot going on in the golf world. We saw Billy Ho last week, held on to win. Congrats to him. And then, the whole live situation, just live your life. What's on your mind? And yeah, what's we haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. So what's in Drew's head lately?
Yeah, I mean, just to hit on last week, that's just a proper golf course. Like that is the peak PGA Tour golf course. You saw like as the week went on, it just got firm and fast. And I mean, Billy Ho, nobody tried to take it on Sunday, right? Max made a charge on the front nine, then made the double. Neiman was tracking, he doubled 14. But Billy Ho was pretty rock solid. After he made that eagle putt on 15, it was kind of over. It just, again, I've seen people talk about it. This is why handicapping golf as far as like an outright betting thing is difficult because I mean Billy Ho's been playing decent coming off a miscut, but then boom, he hits, right? And it wasn't even relatively close, but you could see on the back nine on Sunday how the golf course kind of became different. I watched Spieth in the morning, wedge shots hitting like concrete, couldn't hold greens. So it was really, I think winning the Memorial, I think the Memorial is within the top, outside of the majors, the top 3 event, in my opinion. And the field shows it, the golf course shows it. But yeah, it was a good week, man. And I've had the honor and the privilege to go down there many times. It's only about an hour and a half from where I live. It's a lot of golf course, and it takes a complete player to win there. And Billy had it last week. And just to kind of transition before I hit on live for a second, just to yes, Cam Young got eviscerated out there.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, it was a tough scene.
What do you remember? Do you remember when he won it Thursday morning? He won the Memorial Thursday morning, and then gosh, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, I think I played for some Ryan Palmer last week. He went like 81, 84, and I'm like, well, that's not great. But that's the kind of golf course you're playing. I think I don't know how it ended, but it sounded like things were kind of going well for you. You had a showdown on Friday. Kind of talk me through that, how things end up. What's the lineup look like?
Yeah, so I had very lucky that in the last like 2 rounds back to back, because I won 2 single entries on the Sunday before. Gosh, and now I can't even remember what tournament that was. Sam Burns, when he came back. Won that. Yeah, and then got real lucky again kind of on Friday. And this is why I love Showdown. And speaking of Showdown, we'll do a shameless plug next week for the U.S. Open. We're having our boy DGen75 who does the Showdown Hoedown. So we're really looking forward to that. But yeah, I got lucky Friday, and we talk often, obviously, about game theory, and I think just game theory is even more, important or utilized in Showdown because people. Gosh, so many people in I think DFS are like scared and they don't even know it. So obviously, when you invest money, nobody wants to lose money, and so you want the sure thing. You want people that, gosh, who are going to play well, and that's great if we can find out who's going to play well. But that leads to ownership, like tend to being like more kind of condensed on a particular set of golfers, and people just kind of buy into that, and they think, gosh, that's safe. I want the safer golfer, and they don't really stop and think about the variance and the randomness and the just ups and downs of golf. And so, gosh, I one Keith Mitchell was one guy that really helped me, and I would have won it. Is he had a birdie streak alive going to a par 5, missed a 7-footer, and that birdie with the birdie streak would have got me the W. But him, being at 5%, and then Molinari, who shot 4 under, being at 2%. That's why ownership matters. And you can find those golfers in Showdown because the majority of the field goes to what they think might be the sure thing. And again, not for the most part, but it's just kind of easy to naturally do maybe in Showdown. But we'll have our boy on next week to kind of talk about that. But I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, and it's wild to me to see how projected ownership is so different on a Showdown day-to-day basis than it is when we fire things up Thursday, right? The minute somebody has a terrible round, you can get value and their ownership drops considerably when we roll into Showdown. And you can also kind of find players that maybe this was kind of just out of the ordinary round of golf and you expect them to bounce back. Of course, you can look at strokes gain numbers. But when you look at the difference in when we lock lineups on Thursday and who everybody liked, and then you look at Showdown percentages on Friday and how they differentiate from what everybody was thinking on Thursday, and everybody after one round of golf is completely different with what they see ownership-wise. And I think that's where you can kind of pinpoint, guys, to your point, where you're like, okay, hey, if I can get this player that has this kind of upside, we know Keith Mitchell, for example, is one of them. You said about the birdie streak. He does this all the time, right? Keith Mitchell he's a birdie streak guy. He's kind of hit or miss, so you got him on the right day. But you can find like, hey, like a guy was 22% locked Thursday morning, and now they're 8%. And that's kind of where you can kind of gain some value in Showdown. And clearly 2 weeks in a row, you've been spot on. So I'm hoping that the streak continues this week. And I'm definitely looking forward to next week as well. But there's definitely interesting value in Showdown. And I just love the fact that you have your lineups that are the 4 rounds, but you also get the instant gratification or disappointment with a Showdown, right? Like you can look at your team and after 9 holes be like, well, I'm done. Whereas the other ones you're kind of trying to sweat throughout 4 days. It's nice to kind of have that definitive at the end of the day when the last puck goes in. So do you think, and this is kind of a different question, do you think it's easier or harder to do Friday, Saturday as compared to Sunday? Because with Sunday, we have finishing points, right? And that throws a whole other dimension into it. So do you think it's easier to kind of pinpoint that on Sunday, or that Friday, Saturday? Do you have a better feeling with those 2 days?
Yeah, good question.
Maybe not.
Well, on an easier is a tough term because DFS is never easy. But with what you're saying is, where do you find maybe the most success? And I would say Sunday. So going back to not last week, the week before, I won those 2 Showdowns, single entry slates. Scotty Scheffler was 65% owned, and he had like a 3-shot lead going into Sunday. And so, rightfully so, everybody's seen how well he's played. And not that I predicted or I told myself, God, Scotty is going to play bad Sunday, but it's more of, again, what we talk about every single week. Look at the possible leverage that creates. People buy in, finishing points are important, but people over exaggerate the importance. For even if it's like a 3rd place to like a 12th place, it's just the difference is 1 birdie. And so people really over exaggerate it. What really kind of does is the combination of a low owned play, kind of like Sam Burns I think it was 13%, a guy, Sam Burns. And not only does he win it, but the opportunity of making all those birdies to climb the leaderboard. So people think you're actually getting value because a guy is starting with placing points, but you're actually finding value because you're thinking of ownership against the field of the real value is who do I think that these guys that can make a Sunday charge, who a lot of people are overlooking because they want the high salary guys in the top 5. So does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. It definitely does. And that's the thing. I think that to your point, a lot of people put too much emphasis on the finishing points where you never know what's going to happen. A world-class player like Scotty Scheffler blows a lead, right? And you don't expect that to necessarily happen. So you can kind of say, hey, I think this guy's going to win. And I think that that's the strategy you take. Like, hey, if I think this guy's going to win, I'm going to put him in my lineup. But you can't just start going down the board. Okay, this guy is in 5th place and he's this value as far as salary wise, and just start plugging in guys that are at the top of the leaderboard, because that strategy never works. It just doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. Like when you start the contest and you see, scroll at the top of the board before anybody's teed off, and you just see that people going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Like, you what ceiling do you have? Like what upside does that lineup have? It has 0. Like those guys can't go anywhere. You can only go down from there.
Right.
So I get that. So David brings up a great question, and so we'll get to that. But I just wanted to check in, Drew, for you, if you have any thoughts on Live or anything else maybe you wanted to speak on.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, I don't want to get too much into it. I do think for the league itself, today was a big day. I also think that this is something it's kind of a 5-year down the line thing, right? Because with the money that they're throwing around, this isn't just a flash in the pan league. They are heavy with what they're doing, right? I mean, you saw the reports today. They were throwing 750, $800 million at Tiger Woods to come play in the league. You see Phil got 200. You see DJ got 125. For me, I do believe that the PGA, and I do expect more people to kind of go over and join this league just because of, listen, the politics aside, the human rights things aside, which I know is I'm pushing something significant to the side, but just for this discussion, it's hard to put life-changing money in front of somebody, especially somebody that hasn't had dominant success, or Ricky Fowler who hasn't been able to find his game. It's hard to throw that money in front of people and them turn that down, right? Like changes your entire life as far as funds go. I mean, for example, DJ's made around $70 million in his PGA Tour career. He just signed for $125 million. Now, I know DJ has tons of money and he probably doesn't need the money, but hell, at that point, that's just a lot of money. And the thing that I worry about from a PGA Tour perspective is this is kind of a pool full of money that they have. And the pockets are never going to be empty. They're going to continue to have money to put out. They're going to continue to try to get players. And I think eventually what happens, in my opinion, is once this sees the courtroom, which is going to inevitably see the courtroom based off of the PGA players being, individual contractors, the PGA Tour is going to have to figure out if it's a certain amount of time they can suspend somebody, because they can't suspend them forever. And so I worry on a PGA Tour perspective that more guys are going to just see this money because they're going to continue to just throw the money at these guys, asking a second, a third time, based off of how their game is or where their career is, where they're at the time of their career. I worry that over time they are going to accumulate some really good talent over there just based off the funds that they have. And it really puts the PGA Tour in an interesting situation. I don't think anybody's shocked to see Phil or Ricky go, or I don't think anybody's shocked at anybody right now. But if you look at the field, everybody's like, yeah, well, this field's not very good. This is just the beginning, in my opinion. More and more people will, I believe, start to go over to this league. And I'm extremely intrigued with kind of where it goes from here.
Yeah, well said. I'm plain just sick of hearing about it. But that's a great take, and sick of just hearing about it.
I agree.
Yeah, frankly, for me, and this is just my opinion. It is what it is. Do I want it to happen? No, I'm a DJ fan. I want him to play on the PGA Tour. I wanted to watch him. We know how we feel about Gooch, but yeah, the PGA Tour is going to need to do something. It's interesting, to see what Augusta National, the USGA, and the PGA of America decide to do, if they decide to do anything. And the court battles.
That's the wild card. That changes everything. If the four majors decide to put their foot down in any sort of way, that deters anybody from playing, because your legacy is built off of major championships, not dollar bills. So if they can't play in the major championships, then that right there is really drawing a line in the sand. And you saw Phil today says he still plans to play all the major championships, but that is more than the PGA Tour drawing the line in the sand. If the major championships can't be played, then people's legacy per se is going to be tarnished, or they're not going to be able to achieve the goals that they originally set out to have.
Yeah. But there's still going to be a PGA Tour. We're still going to have DFS PGA, whether it's with softer fields or whatever, but there's still an opportunity that we're still going to be competing against everyone in these contests, and that's not going away. So we're going to use that to transition. And again, David brings up a good point. Top of the board, pretty very top heavy. We're falling over. And do you start there, or can you have to, go to the top of the board? Yeah, the talent's up there. It's just really important how you construct your lineup, because the ownership's going to be more condensed near the top, because again, how top heavy it is. So how you fill out your next 5 to 4 spots, ownership wise, will be very important, because it could be a week where duplicated lineups and the large field GPPs is going to be, maybe more likely. And so to how to get contrarian, if we're playing the large field GPPs, the goal is obviously to win. That's how we can really make the money, is finishing the top 1%. Maybe we have to be more mindful of it in a week like this. And again, I would, everyone's kind of upset. It's like, gosh, I got to pay, 7,900 for Aaron Rye. Like, I can't, like, that's crazy. Or, whereas, yeah, Varner is 9,700. I almost say, like, don't even look at the salaries as much this week. The ownership should be the real salary, in my opinion. And people say it every week, leaving salary on the table. But when you get weaker field, so if we cut off the top heavy part of the field, yeah, it's super weak. And so when you get weaker fields, DraftKings doesn't know, between a $7,800 golfer and a $7,100 golfer, who's gonna, the margins are so thin when the talent kind of level drops. Obviously, they're professional golfers; they're incredibly talented, but comparing them to the top of the board, it's a lot thin. There's not a lot difference than Trey Mullinex to Pat Perez. Yeah, and there's $400-$500 difference there. So we always say leave salary on the table is a way to get unique. It might even be more important this week. Drew, do you have any thoughts, just maybe on how we're looking at the Canadian Open on a Monday evening?
No, I completely agree with you. You're gonna have to kind of start top heavy, right? You're gonna have to eat chalk, and it's gonna be super chalky at the top. But to your point, ownership is where things get. It just makes it such a value to be able to go in and pinpoint guys that you want to play, and then you just pool together. Like, what I'll do is I'll pool 8 to 10 guys that I like in a particular, let's say from 7,000 to 8,500. I'll pull together 10 guys, and then I'll just base things off ownership, right? And that's kind of how I'll fill it in. And yeah, leaving money on the table is great. But I think, yeah, again, there's going to be duped lineups, because it tends to happen as we build lineups is people fall kind of on the same guys, right? Boom. So say we want to start on JT and Scotty. That kind of brings us down to like Tony Finau, right? Or Adam Hadwin. And it's like you fill out your lineup if you're just going through it, not looking at ownership percentage. But if I'm going to build 10 to 12 people that I like in a specific $2,000 range, and it doesn't have to be 12, it could be 6 or 8 or whatever you're comfortable with, then I play the ownership scheme, right? And that's how I get different. Because there's going to be a chance that I'm going to play somebody up top at 80%. They're going to be in a majority of my lineups, and then I'm going to play the ownership game. And over 150 lineups or whatever it may be, that's kind of how you're going to differentiate it. But yeah, leaving money on the table is probably more important this week than it is other weeks, just to kind of make things different on your end than everybody else. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, and then there's variables that we're not maybe considering that we have to consider, this week than in other PGA Tour stops, that a lot of these golfers, and I say a lot, maybe it's more of a handful, are playing and have played in U.S. Open qualifiers today. And so that they likely won't see the course maybe late tomorrow or even Wednesday. And
the fact that this golf course really, to your point, hasn't been seen since 2010, right? It's not a regular stop on the tour. So is there an advantage to guys that got there today and didn't have to go through that qualifying? Because it's really wild when, just kind of off subject a little bit, when you look at who tried to qualify for the U.S. Open, and this is the longest day in golf, right? You're grinding for 36 holes of all these qualifiers. There are tons of big names that you would assume that were in the U.S. Open that aren't. And it's a brutal day. And then to go to a golf course that's somewhat foreign to most of these guys. I mean, we talk about how the tour has gotten so young. I mean, they haven't been here in 12 years. There's a relatively small sample size of these guys that have actually seen this golf course. And we know how golf courses change over, a decade. So there may be an advantage to being there today as guys get in late and it's a long day, and maybe take tomorrow off. And then you hop into Wednesday and then you're into the Pro-Am. And it's just like, is there enough time to figure out the golf course? And I think that's probably something that I'm over saying, right? Like, they're PGA pros, they'll figure it out. But yeah, these are all kind of narratives that we can look at. And listen, it's a long ass day today. Like, those guys went through a lot. Anybody that tries to Monday qualify, or not Monday qualify, for a US Open qualify, it's tough. And I've tried to do it before. It's a brutal day, right? And it's funny because you see last thing with the U.S. Open qualifying, guys will play 3 holes or 4 holes and make an 8, and they're in the car because it's just like that's why you see so many people not finish. But yeah, that's an element to it. And not seeing the course is an element. A top heavy field is another element. This feels like a good week to kind of find value, and I'm sure we'll point some of those things out throughout the week. But to your point, I think this is a perfect week for not only you but a lot of people in DFS, and maybe build some cash heading into to Brookline next week.
Yeah, well said. And I'll just say one thing, the point of bringing it up, or for me at least, bringing up that the narrative of, a guy like Brendan Todd, who I actually really like, played, in the qualifier today. So, gosh, I can't play him. Don't buy into that. Again, that's unquantifiable narrative. Does it help or does it hurt? I mean, maybe, but these are professional golfers. It reminds me of, I think it was Jonathan Vegas a year ago, or maybe it was in 2019. I can't remember, but that was all over Twitter. That Vegas, who I think has won or played well here when it was at the previous course, and everyone wanted to play him, but they said, gosh, that he was playing in the U.S. Open qualifier and he had to play at 36 holes. He's not going to see the course till later, so we faded him, and he even went on to, I can't remember if he went on to win or first round leader, like top 10. I can't remember. It's just a point that, these guys are good, and don't, if there's a reason that you're off a guy and the only reason is that he's playing in the qualifier, don't do that. But we don't need to, the 9, the 10K and above, unless you want to, Drew. You're welcome to talk about a guy, but we know what these guys are. They're all good. It's tough to separate Scotty, JT, and Rory, Cam too. We know how good they are, but I'll just start because David brings up a good point of, he feels like it's a Fitzy week, and I get that too. But if we were hoping that he was going to go under-owned because of recency bias of missing the cut last week, I don't think so. In the age of strokes gained data, everyone sees how well he actually played, even though he missed the cut. He's going to be chalk again. And so, for those hoping that he was going under the radar, not at all, really. Maybe quite the opposite. Might be one of the highest owned. But he does model out well. That's why strokes gained, whatever. But the guys below him, I'm really excited about. But anybody up there, Drew, you want to just speak on real quick?
I just want to hit on the Fitzy thing real quick. Because it's intriguing as hell, right? He lost 7.5 strokes on the green. And you think Fitzy's a good putter, but this is kind of a weird trend at Memorial, because in 19, he lost almost 6.5 on the greens there. And for a guy that you look at strokes gained data, he's really a good putter. So for me, I kind of throw that out the window. Ball striking wise, he was right there, right? 6.5 tee to green. You lose 7.5 on the greens. It's going to be a long week. So yeah, I can make cases for everybody. I think, of course, there'll be a theme of Canadians. You think Corey Connors is probably going to be super heavily owned. Adam Hadwin, I know, hasn't necessarily been trending in the last 12 rounds as well as he was prior, but you think that he's going to be high owned. I'm going to just bring up my guy, Chris Kirk. I'm going to play the hell out of Chris Kirk. Based off what we hear, this would be a great golf course for Chris Kirk, and he's been knocking on the door. So it's going to be time for him to open it at some point here. And I know you mentioned Keith Mitchell was successful for you last week, and he's sitting there at 9K, but I can make a case for everybody here, right? And I'm sure you could do the same. And it's just, for me, it's just about figuring out the 2 or 3 guys that you like and rolling with it, and then kind of building from 9K down.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you who I don't think is going to be too highly owned. First, people are going to go to Corey. Corey played, showed a lot of improvement last week. He hadn't really been playing all that well.
Right.
Good improvement for him. He's going to be popular. I'm really leaning on or eyeing Tyrrell Hatton right now. We always say trending, but he actually is trending well with the ball striking. Finally, tee to green now. He's gained 4 straight, excluding the Masters, where I want to take that away. But played well at the PGA, 5.8 tee to green, 3.6 on approach. Even though he complained, but that's always him. But Tony Finau has turned a corner, really, really high on him now. We saw him play well at the Charles Schwab. I'm not, driving accuracy is going to be important. We hear all this. There's so many good course reports out there, including our own Jason. Check them out.
Yeah.
But Tony in the last 24 rounds rates out one of the best in the field. Again, over the last 24 rounds, he's fifth in ball striking, ninth on approach, fifth off the tee, ninth tee to green. From proximity ranges with some longer irons, we're going to see a lot of that today. He ranks third from 150 to 175 and 27 to 175 to 200. And if you're interested, 24th from 200 plus. Really like Tony, and I don't feel like he's going to be too highly owned, because if people are going to be top heavy, it's going to be tough to fit in a JT, Fitzpatrick, or Connors, and people then might want Hadwin down there too. Tony Finau may go overlooked a tad. I really, really like Tony Finau.
I didn't realize how good the form was, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Just
quietly,
looking at it now.
Yeah. If you look over the last 12 rounds in just some ball striking stats, Tony Finau ranks 7th in the field. Last 8 rounds, he ranks 2nd in the field. In last 4 rounds, he ranks 4th. That's for a guy like in this field. Tony Finau should be where Shane Lowry is at 10-1, but because he hasn't had a good, probably spring, early summer, we're getting him next to Adam Hadwin. So I really like Tony Finau, and maybe even don't think of him as a U.S. Open type of golfer, but might like him even more next week.
Yeah, no, you're right. I hadn't even looked at he's really put together 6 nice tournaments in a row. Including the 4th at Charles Schwab. I know he didn't play last week, but I do like that call. I wanted to bring up a guy to you, and this is everything, and this is why I kind of am intrigued by him, and I want to know your thoughts. And everything about this golf course screams it's a terrible fit for Cam Champ, which is why I love Cam Champ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, because I feel like this is kind of like you're going to get him low owned because he's been sporadic. He's coming off 2 missed cuts in a row, but he did show some promise in May. And I kind of like the idea of Cam Champ. I think I try to play him in certain spots, and every time that I see when he's playing well, the spot just doesn't seem to add up to what his game is kind of built around, right? He's kind of erratic off the tee. He's super long. They say, hey, you got to hit fairways here. I just think based off of 7,000 yards, which is what we're looking at this week, and to your point, there's going to be long irons in based off the par 3s. It's going to be a lot of wedges this week, just based off the distance. And so I think that, again, everybody's saying, hey, accuracy is super important. Accuracy this, accuracy that. I think that I'm going to just play the reverse Uno card and roll with Cam Champ this week. And it might burn me, but to your point, these are the kind of plays and risks that you got to take to try to gain some leverage in these GPPs.
Yeah, I like it. And I like how you're thinking of, if everyone's saying, again, it's a course we've never seen before, if everyone's saying the course is going to play this way, and that's not to a guy like Cam Champ's skill set, then maybe we zig when they zag, and that's where we get it. Because, again, nobody really knows for sure what this course is going to look like or how it's going to play. And so I like that. I just want to name another couple guys in this kind of mid 8K range. Justin Rose, I know he's sobled, but I don't care about that. I like Justin Rose actually a lot. I really like Vegas more. Played well at the Memorial. Had a tough Sunday, which kind of hurt me. But he's a tee to green machine. Has played well at this event before, but kind of trending nicely. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned him, because you brought him up on the show a lot kind of earlier this year. If everything is right, that you have to be accurate off the tee, good with the long irons, kind of feels like a Brendan Todd type of week. I know he played today. I think he qualified actually for the U.S. Open. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked at it in a while, but finally we kind of see some resemblance. We've always known Brendan Todd to be a good driver of the golf ball. When he was winning his tournaments, like the OHL, and gosh, didn't he win before? I'm trying to pull it up. Yeah, he won the Byron Nelson and everything. We've known him
back-to-back weeks, I believe.
Yeah, he can never put the ball in the fairway, and then he lost it. Then he's like, because over his last 20 rounds. He's actually lost strokes off the tee, and it's not been really consistent with it. But I'm really pleased what we saw at the Charles Schwab. Gained 2.6 off the tee, 6.2 tee to green. As again, played well at courses where you need to be accurate. I kind of like Brendan Todd, and over the last 12 rounds, ranks 12th in this kind of trend progression. So I kind of prefer him. I don't think he'll be kind of highly owned, but you're a Todd guy, or at least I think you are. Do you have any thoughts on Brendan?
No, I love the play. I love the play.
Mhm.
It's kind of been, and he's a great example of how hard golf is, right? He strung together just an incredible run, and then he completely lost it. And now he's
Yeah.
starting to bring it back. And I do think, to your point, course fit wise, being accurate, putting the ball in the right spot, being a veteran, I feel like he's going to pick up on the golf course maybe quicker than some young people. I like the play a lot. I want to ask you about one guy because I'm in on Johnny Vegas too. I love Johnny Vegas here. I looked at Thigala, and I know Thigala is going to be popular in this territory, but his strokes gained from last week are crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to see him duplicating hitting the golf ball as well as he did last week. Gaining over 10 tee to green is pretty incredible. But I just want your thoughts. And this is a player that I'm not going to play any of, but it's Patrick Reed. He's crept all the way up in the top of the 8Ks again. I get that the form's been better, but I mean, getting all the way back up to $9,000 between Keith Mitchell and Justin Rose, I feel more comfortable with those two players. Any interest in Patrick Reed?
I have a lot of interest in Patrick Reed.
Interesting.
Yeah, I do. Again, if we're talking about fairways gained, so if we go back to Brendan Todd, he ranked second over the last 24 rounds in fairways gained. Because we have to put the ball in fairway. That's what we hear. Here, can be difficult. But yeah, we'll see. We don't know. But if it's true that we're going to have a lot of long irons into some of these greens, and maybe we're taking long irons or hybrids, woods off the tee. Well, Patrick Reed ranks 7th in the field in proximity from 175 to 200. From 150 to 175, he ranks 14th in the field over the last 24 rounds. I like that. And we know these are small greens from what we've heard. And there's going to be greens in regulation. And if we know someone who can scramble and has a good around the green game, that's Patrick Reed. This plays similar to a U.S. Open. It feels like Patrick Reed's the type of golfer that can play well here.
It's also interesting with Patrick Reed is really after, I believe, the Wells Fargo, he ditched the PXG driver. And since then,
maybe that's it.
Cuts,
yeah.
Played well. It was wild because when he was hitting that driver, he was only carrying the ball like 270, which is, on the PGA Tour level, you're just putting yourself way behind the 8-ball. So there may be something to that for sure. I just I'm not there, but I'm glad that we have a differing opinion on this because I think he's an intriguing player, and I think that the books have and DK has said that they have faith in him, bringing him up all the way up to almost 9K.
Yeah, I like him. Probably might bet him outright. But I'm going to run through it. I know we're running low on time. I'm going to run through because, again, I love weeks like this. And there's a lot of guys I'm really, really liking. JJ Spawn, might go back to him. Pat Perez played well last week, but he usually is putted there. So I'm not kind of concerned. I'm kind of concerned. Martin Laird, the party,
well
John Huff. Yeah, John Huff finding some form, played well at Charles Schwab. Really, really, really like John Huff. Scott Piercy, hate to say it, not a Scott Piercy guy, but kind of like him. Lee Hodges, yes. There's a guy in here, Adam Schenk. He's going to be popular, but really like how Adam Schenk is hitting the ball at 6,900. Very surprised in this field he's actually that low. At the Memorial, gained 7.4 on approach, 9.2 tee to green, lost strokes putting. If he just was even with strokes putting, he's likely in the top 10 last week. Really like him. Kodaira, I think he kind of was in contention to qualify for the U.S. Open. He's in the field like him. Sam Ryder, now we're in the sickle range. Really like Sam Ryder. Another guy last time we saw him played well. And that's at the Memorial, even with the missed cut. But he's actually gained 3 strokes on approach in 3 straight. Gains strokes tee to green and 3 straight. Just has to get the putter cooking. But he does have a really awful miscut kind of history going. And so, those are a couple guys. My favorite in the kind of low 7K range, 6K might be Adam Schenk. and then also too maybe Lee Hodges. But those are the kind of the near the bottom of the board that I'm really leaning on Monday. Anything that's catching your eye in this sicko range?
Yeah. I mean, I'll start kind of a little bit higher up. I do like Smotherman. I'll get behind Steven Yeager. The one play that I'm excited about is Nick Hardy. Nick Hardy has been injured, coming off an exemption, shot 62 today to qualify for the U.S. Open. Love to see that. And then JT Poston, also somebody I love there. You want to talk about a guy that can't move it very much, but can kind of play, point A to point B golf. He's one of them. And then finally, I'll stay with Bryce Garnett. I played a lot of Bryce Garnett. He's a
staying. I didn't know you're on him.
Yeah, so I'll cap it at 6,700 with Bryce Garnett. But I do think that there are some guys that you can kind of find down here.
Oh yeah,
it's
like I'll give you like Andrew Novak. Last time we saw him at the Byron Nelson, 2.6 to green, 1.7 approach. Excellent around a green player from the limited history we see him. He's going to be 1% owned and could just surprise people. So yeah, I agree. There's a lot of names that get kind of created. That's what makes it fun. One guy I didn't even forget to mention, but he's one of my favorite plays. David Lipsky. Miss Lippy. Miss Lippy's car is green. Guy is an approach machine. Gain strokes on approach, 5 out of the last 6. Off the tee, not working out so well, but again, if we're taking irons off the fairway, off the tee, and we're laying up, that might not matter as much. Who knows? I don't know. But I really like Lipsky. Again, surprised that he's only 7,300. But he does rank 15th in the field in fairways gained. David Lipsky might be one of my highest owned plays. And I can't remember who I was talking to, but a lot of people were on Danny Willett last week. Didn't work out. Go back to Danny Willett this week. So that's all I'm going to say. I know we went over a lot of golfers because there's a lot of diamonds in the rough, I think. Anything else, Drew, you want to share before we wrap up?
Danny Willett's green jacket is technically Jordan Spieth's, so he still owes him that. Okay. But no, I think we hit on it. Again, it's a fun week, especially this is one of the weeks where I feel like if you want to play, say you want to roll out the 150 max, you can play it at a little bit lower of $1. And you can kind of spread things out a little bit more, try to find people more toward the bottom, pair them with the guys up top that we mentioned. And then just, again, look at FanShare Sports come Wednesday night to kind of pick and choose your ownership and which route you want to go. But, again, a week that maybe people aren't taking as serious, aren't playing as much as they would heading into Brookline next week. I think there's value this week for sure.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you, Drew, coming on, and we'll be back again for the U.S. Open next week. So good luck this week. Build that bankroll, and I appreciate you listening, checking in. Thanks, guys.